Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. Didn't want to bore the recording with all of our intros, so let's jump into our agenda. So we today are doing really what is called a bring and share session. So we've got five of us who, in an hour and 5 minutes, are going to go through some Salesforce stuff that we think is either cool, it may be new stuff, it may be just like little hints and tips. I'm really hoping that everybody takes away something that they either didn't know about or something they thought was really cool or something that they're like, oh yeah, I'm now going to use that in my org. So a big thank you, because I'll forget to say at the end, big thank you to Debbie for helping organize this, of course, and thank you to Yvonne and Nitsan and Simon, all for agreeing to be part of this. So we'll let them introduce each other as they start. Then at the end, we're going to have our closing and, most importantly, our duck race. If you've not been before, there will be a duck race. There is swag. Anyone who is based in the UK is eligible, simply because we have to pay the postage costs. So I have prizes though. Shall I show them now? Let's. So I have like a little cloudy Lego set. Say Lego, it's not Lego, it's bricks. Gosh, don't want Lego to sue me. Let's got like a little notepad. And I've got some stickers I'll throw in there. And then I also have an Astro plush pal who is, it's not mine, but it's the same as this one. Cute little Astro plush pal. That also comes with a notebook. And then I have an actual Lego set. So I won this um, at London's Calling last year from Ploughty, but I already have it. So I thought, why not just chuck this into the mix? So anybody who fancies a Lego set, not some Salesforce swag, that is up for grabs today. And also, if you decide, if you're the last person, you decide you don't want the Lego set, feel free to just say, I don't want the Lego set. And that's okay. I'll dig something else out of my drawer. So without further ado, I am going to hand over to Debbie. And Debbie's going to talk about a couple of things. And then if there's any time at the end, Debbie might talk about a couple more. I see somebody's just asked about World Tour. Sorry, just to jump in. Um, that will be coming pretty soon, I think. So wait and watch this space. Debbie, over to you.
Thank you. Hello. So for anyone who doesn't know me, I'm the system admin at the Down Syndrome Association, and I've been here since 2019, so just over 5 years. And we, like any of you, start with a small team and then gradually getting more and more people on board. And I just thought I'd show a couple of the things I found useful as I'm sort of getting to know things. Some of you will probably know these already, some may already have them, but just in case, I'm going to share my screen and show a couple of things. So hopefully I will share the right window. So hopefully you can see my org here. First thing is, what I tend to do is when I have a sandbox, I go and change the theme. So I have a branded theme for our live. And then whenever I get a sandbox spun up, I will go and change the color so that I know for sure I am not in my live org and I am not going to do something with data that I really shouldn't be doing. So that's just the first simple quick tip if you don't already do that. And the second one is there's a few different Chrome extensions that I find useful. I've got, I think, about 3 or so at the moment. One of them you might be able to spot it already, is the coloured favicons. So that, again, as well as the theme showing that my sandbox is a different colour, the icon up here is a different colour between my production and my sandbox. And I know some people use folders as well to put things in on their Chrome if they use Chrome. Other browsers are available. And another thing I do is on my, I go home here, there's another one called Why Salesforce, with that emphasis. And it's some shortcuts that you can program up here. So, like I always have to search for different functions and things that you use all the time. So instead of having to go and plow through the menu or search for them in your setup, um, this allows you to configure some shortcuts. So I tend to use sandboxes a lot. So I've got a quick link to that. So instead of having to go in and do that, and I've got Flow because I don't use the new app. Sure, I'm not the only one, but I don't use the automation app from the front end. My users, obviously, that's one you probably find often as well. And so you can configure it. So I can give links to the different extensions if they're useful. But that is what I have today. Any questions? Anybody wants to know anything about that? Or are you happy for me to let Yvonne take over?
What was was it Y as in the letter Y, Salesforce, or Y
No,
as in the
as in the
question?
question why. So if I show you, hang on my extensions, it's this one here. Oops. So no, I'd have to go and search. Hang on, just seeing if I can show it in a better way. But literally, why Salesforce? Can I
Brilliant.
find? I don't know if you can go and see where it is.
That's all right. You can get
But
from that. Yeah.
yeah, as you can see, that's where I also configured what I've got on here. So you can add. I don't know if there's a limit to how many you've added. I've only got the 4, but that's all I have for now.
Would you be able to send the links to those?
Yeah, I will make sure to do that. Shall I do it in the chat as well as
Mm.
outside? Yeah, great. So, Yvonne, over to you.
Ah, okay. No pressure. Here we go. Gonna try and like forget how many people are actually watching right now and just like blur that out of my mind. Okay, let me make sure I also am on the right screen. Okay, can you see a Salesforce screen? I can only see like a handful of people. Thanks, Mark, for the thumbs up. I appreciate it. Okay, all right, so I wanted to talk about Salesforce Inspector, actually, of all things. And I appreciate it's one of these things that a lot of people know about and a lot of people use. It's also one of these things that a lot of people don't necessarily use or know that it exists in the background and are not particularly sure on what to do with it or when to do it. Um, I was just thinking, actually, Debbie, there about your how you deal with your tabs and you have different icons. I tend to use Chrome groups actually. So I will sort of take a group and then give them different colors, and then you can like add them into your group. Which is quite handy because then you can open up and close your group as well. So I end up with like a million tabs, and then you can just open and close them. Anyway, there's lots of stuff in there that you can potentially see and do and whatnot. Okay, so what I wanted to have a look at was the Salesforce Inspector. So if we go into this record here, this front one, and whilst I'm in here, we can see that I've got this little tab here on the right-hand side. On the right-hand side, it opened up Salesforce Inspector, which I find really useful. Now, bear in mind, there is sort of a bit of personal data in here with regards to my data, but I'm sharing it, so I'll be fine with that. Please don't sell it, though that's what I'm going to go with. Alrighty, okay, so the things that I find really handy in here are really with regards to the objects. So you've got a little tabs on across the top here. So just to guess to start that this is a Chrome add-on. So it's up in here, up in the Chrome extensions, and then you find Salesforce Inspector Reloaded, and that will give you kind of like your latest version. Whenever you go in and open it up, it can generally tends to open up in objects, which I find really handy. It immediately sort of gives you like various bits of data. Things that I particularly love is this show field API names. So if I click show field API names, what this does, it immediately pulls up the API names against the fields. And you're like, well, that's really helpful, but like actually, I know that mobile phone is mobile. I know that other phone is other phone. That's great. But when you're in a new org, and I say this particularly if you're a consultant, you might come across this kind of stuff every now and again, where you've got a field that's called something like newsletter recipient, and actually its API is email opt-in. So when you're trying to do a data load on that, or when you're trying to find it, or you're trying to find this field, like it's a pain. Like it's a real pain. So I genuinely find it really useful to pull up the API names if I am looking for a specific thing. Also handy if you get error messages. The other thing that I quite like from Salesforce Inspector Reloaded is the show all data. So, you know, when you're sort of like, is this, I'm sure there's a field, there must be a field. Is there a field? And then you've got to head across the setup, and then you've got to go and edit the object, and then you've got to go into fields and relationships, oh my God, and find your field. I really quite like to go in to just immediately show all data. So this shows you from the contact that you're on, all the field API names, all the labels, and whether they are used or not used. So anything that is in gray isn't shown up. So things like has opted out of fax, that's not on the screen right now, but I know that that is a field that is available if I want it on there. All of these households, because I've got NPSPN stored, installed, like I can see that all of these fields are here. So actually, if I wanted to go and see what I could use and what I couldn't use, and like, is this a field, what it's called, then all of the data is in there. The other thing that's really handy, and we've all been here, is when you need to edit a field that isn't on your page layout because it triggers something else, or you've got to just go and edit it and it's not the page layout that's assigned to you, but all those things. You can go into your all data, and then you can start to edit your fields, and that will then save directly onto the record. So you can either do this by clicking on edit, and that will make you want to edit all the fields, or you can go into, can I pick one? I can't. But anyway, you can go in and you can edit straight from within here, and you can update those details, and that will then save on the page layout as well, which is super extra handy. So we'll just go and check that birth date, and we'll do a refresh. So yeah, birth date has updated there. Happy days. So other than showing all data and showing all API names, oh, actually back in all data, all over the place here, you can then start to go in and you can do various other sorts of fun stuff. So you can view that record in Salesforce, you can edit the page layout, you can go to the object setup straight from there. You can start to filter on things. If you find, I'm going to try and find a formula field now, don't know if I have any. If you find a formula field and hover over it, it will tell you what that formula field is made up of. If I hover over this pick list here, it will tell you kind of what the pick list values are in there as well. So again, it's just like a real, it's just a nice way and a quick way to save you having to go into setup, into your various bits, then go and find all the details of fields that you're looking for. Okay. Other handy things from Salesforce Inspector are things like org limits. So you can go straight in and you can view your org limits and what it's looking for, and all sorts of funky, like, oh God, if you have got some sort of developer mindset, you can see all the stuff that's in there. You can data import and data export. I never have. I haven't worked up to that yet. I'm sure there's people in this group who will have data imported and exported with Salesforce Inspector. I'm not there yet. At one point I will be, and when I am, I'll quite happily share that. Yeah, various people just going, yeah, use that and it's awesome. I am still a little bit addicted to data loader IO. Other handy stuff is you can go and you can see the user. So right now, obviously, we can see that we are logged in as me, and we can see the permission sets, the permission set groups that are attached to my user. But wait, I want to go and see what this other user has. I can log in as them, or I can log in as them. I can log in as incognito as them, or I can see what their permission sets are or permission set groups that are attached to that user. And if you want to get really funky, you can go and enable logs. So you can enable a log on another user they can go and do something, figure out go and do something that you know is breaking. And it basically records the logs and all of their steps. So you can come back and go, right, okay, and now I can see in the system step by step what you did, rather than what you think you did, as to why it's breaking. So that's quite a funky little feature. But generally, I tend to use this for either login as other users, permission sets, or permission get set groups to see what that looks like. Interesting stuff as well is, and again, we've all been here, where you get random records and you're just like, oh my God, like I've got a record ID. What even is that? Okay, it starts with 003. So I can now see that everything with 003 is a contact. I can see everything that 006 is an opportunity. If I wanted to, I could take actually a whole record and fire that in there, and that will tell me what type of record that is. And if I do a click through, actually it'll start to bring me that record up. And then if I go into it again, it will actually physically bring me that record. So it's just quite a nice way of, rather than URL hacking it, that you can pop your record ID kind of straight in there, and start to get some information back on it. Immediately you can see sort of like the created, the edited, kind of bit of overview data in there. Incidentally, just in case anybody's ever wondered, 002 is a note, because I always wondered what 002 was. Where did that go? And 008 records are opportunity histories. That's kind of the interesting stuff that I found there. Last up, and then I'm going to shut up and stop talking and pass it on to somebody else, is org information. So if every now and again you have that moment, you're like, oh my God, there's a release coming soon. I know there is. When is it? It's okay. You don't need to go into setup, into company information, click on your Salesforce Inspector Reloaded, and you can immediately see which release you're on, when your next one is due, and what your instance is, what your org ID is, etc. All of that's in there, really nice and handy. Okay, right. I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to pass it on to somebody else. And if there's any questions, probably don't ask me because I'm not going to know. But I am going to share a link to an amazing YouTube video where somebody called Brad Dins talks at length for just over an hour about all of the amazing things Inspector Reloaded can do. So if you're very excited by this, then there's hundreds more that I'll link to that you can watch at a later date, stroke time.
That was awesome. I also have Inspector. Did not realize that like org thing was there. So actually think that's just changed my whole life and that of many of my customers. Like fewer clicks. Everyone's just saved some time. So thank you, Yvonne. That was awesome. Really enjoyed that. And I think many people in the chat are either fans of Inspector already or new fans or upgrading fans, people who are now shifting to the new release, so new version. So I'm up next. So you should be able to see my screen. So just going back to, I mean, Debbie started us on like colors of things, and then Yvonne started talking about tabs. So I thought, oh, I now need to share something on that too. So that's not actually what I'm talking about, but you might notice that my dev org up here has a green cloud and it says DX in it. And that's because I've got Salesforce colored favicons turned on as an app. And you can actually set colors. It will automatically do them. But sometimes you're like, no, like I want that org to be a certain color. So you can actually set them in there. It's dead simple to do. So I will drop that in the chat as well. But I really like the favicons. And the fact that they're instant as well. So like for a consultant working with different clients, you at least do kind of go, those two clouds are a different color. Oh, I wonder if they're different orgs, right? So nothing too overly complicated, but the same, sandbox versus production is useful too. But what I wanted to talk about was user access policies. So user access policies came out a few releases ago, I believe. And what I really like about user access policies is, let's be honest, we've all had that thing where we set up users, or somebody else maybe in our organization needs to set up users, and having to go through and be like, right, you need to fill in all of this information, which is fine, but then you've got to go and add permission sets, and then you've got to go and do the public group, and then you've got to, and there's all the other things, right? And the amount of times I've had people come to me going, well, I've set them up, but they don't see anything, or they're missing stuff. And you're like, did you add the permission sets? And they're like, oh, and you're like, oh, why Salesforce is just so long? It should be simple. This is what user access policies helps with. So first things first, you have to turn them on, because it totally threw me that this dev org didn't have them in it. So it's in user management settings. And in here, there is an option for user access policies. You literally toggle it on and the setting will show up in here. So that's the first thing. This is a user access policy that I've already set up. And what we're going to do is we're going to go and create a user, and I'm going to show you how it works. And then we'll just dig into that policy a little bit further. So we are going to create, now it's not the most realistic of tests because I had to work with what I had in a dev org. So we are going to create ourselves a new user. I think they're a platform user. I hope I'm right. And we are going to set them up. Now, if I get this wrong, nothing's going to happen. So just be warned. Let's not send them a password. So we've set up a new user. And, oh, that's interesting. Let's refresh that. Something looked like it didn't happen there. Okay, we'll go look at our access policy in a minute. Maybe I made a mistake. But what you would have expected is, there would be nothing assigned, right? That's what you would think. However, with a user access policy, what we have here is we have a policy that says, it might be that I'm out of licenses. That's possibly what it is as well, thinking on it. So what we have here is conditions for this policy, and I can only go into them if I deactivate it. So I have to set my criteria of what do I want. So I've said that this is for a Salesforce platform user. You give it a name. And I've said if the profile equals Salesforce platform user, please do this. Please grant the permission set for standard Einstein activity capture, PSL. Love the fact that it uses the API name, not the real name. Not, but we can figure that out. And also grant the permission set for CRM user permission set. Other conditions that I could have added are things like if they're in a group, if they're in a queue, if they already have certain permission sets, and so on. If they already have a role, what you will notice at the moment is this is an and, which is frustrating because there's no or yet, but we have asked for that in some feedback that we've given recently. And then there may be other things like maybe their email contains a certain thing, and that's how you decide what permission sets they get and so on. Once it's been set up and you've saved it, you can leave it in what's called design stage and then just manually apply it. So this might be great if, let's say, you had a load of changes you needed to make. Maybe you've moved all your profile settings into permission sets and you wanted to just, say, well, everybody who is this profile now gets this. You could create one of these, go and apply policy, and then you can say, yep, I want you to apply it to both of these, select, and that will do it as a one-off thing. Or you automate it. So this is, when a user is created or a user is updated or created or updated. I had mine set as created. To me, that's the most logical thing, let's say, because brand new user, please put the right permission sets on. One thing that I didn't cover when we just had a look at the criteria is what you can actually do. So you don't have to just grant permission sets. You can also revoke stuff, but you can also, great if you're trying to take something away from a whole group of users, rather than having to sit, and untick them. But you can grant permission set groups, permission set licenses, package licenses, groups, and queues. So again, if you suddenly built a new queue and you know that everybody on a certain, I don't know, a certain, everyone on a certain profile who also has X in their division, all is going to get that, queue, you can do it through here as well. So, it's kind of, I'd say have a play with it in a dev org. Ideally, that's a dev org of your environment, not a playground like I've used because I ran out of things that I could play with. And then, yeah, you can go through and allocate them. And I mean, even if you just get that simple, when you create a new user that is of X type, it will just allocate XYZ permission set. At least then nobody has to worry about doing that ever again, which is particularly nice. Is anybody already using this functionality and finding it helpful? No, it's one of those that's kind of come out. I think a lot of us admins are quite used to just like manually going and throwing the permission sets on and stuff. But I can definitely see your benefits, particularly where, when you kind of maybe so far have said to people, no, 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 I'll set up the users. I'll do that. Don't you do it because you're thinking they won't have the permission sets. They just won't. You can maybe kind of, that's something you can hand over to somebody to be like, yep. Unless you're setting up, particularly special users, maybe a new system admin or that sort of thing, like run-of-the-mill users, you can go add them. So yeah, I hope that's helpful. Cool. Okay. Who's next? I think it's Nitsan.
Is it me?
I think it is.
All right. So, hi everyone. An advance apology. I started a cold this morning, so I'm reaching out for the tissues about every 2 seconds. So I'll try not to to do that to you, but we'll see. I don't really have a demo. I was only asked, I think yesterday or the day before, to show you Zapex a little bit. So I've sort of cobbled a few things together. But has everyone here heard about Zapex? Who has, who hasn't? Let's see a show of hands. Who has heard about Zapex? Okay, so a few people. All right, not everyone. Okay, so
From
I
you,
came
I hasten to
across
add, only from you, Nitsan. That's
only from me. Okay,
yeah,
I'm the advocate.
because we've heard you talk
Okay,
about it before.
advocate
That's
for
how we know
Zapex.
about it.
Yes. So I came across it in one of the projects that I did where we had to do a lot of data uploads to the system. It was the beginning of the project, and there was a lot of data going sort of back and forth, or maybe forth more than back, and complex data with all the different relationships and everything. And somebody came across Zapex and said, "Oh, look, you can use that to upload and manipulate data in a much easier way than data loader." I mean, every time somebody mentions data loader, I go, "Ooh, no, I don't like data loader." I don't know who here agrees with me. And Zapex is, I'll share my screen. I'll show you the website. Can I share my screen? Yep. Okay. Just find. Sure. Oh, all right. No, it's not the screen I wanted to share. Sorry. Here we go. Right. So can you see my Zapex screen? Yeah, nodding. Good. Thank you. So the tool, I will say from the beginning, you can get three free licenses as a nonprofit. Otherwise, and I've never looked at the pricing because I've always worked with nonprofits, so I've always gotten a free license. I think otherwise the pricing is quite, it's a decent price, but I never paid for it. And all you need to do is contact them. I think you can set up a trial and contact them and give them evidence that you work for a nonprofit, and then you can get 3 free licenses. And the main function that I use, and I think there's a lot more, is to connect Excel with Salesforce for the purposes of data manipulation. A lot of the times it's data uploading. You can do deletions as well, mass deletions, and obviously updates. And it's extremely useful because all I do is I open up Excel with my data, make sure that my data is as clean as possible, and then connect to the sandbox or to the live environment, and then do all the work inside Excel. They also connect with Google Sheets. I've never done that, but I'm sure it's pretty much the same sort of functionality. And you can do lots of different things. You can do data loading, data cleansing, automation. They have flows. They have all sorts of things which I haven't used. But if you wanted to explore that, of course you can. Reporting and data analysis. One of the things that you can also do, which I have done quite a bit of, I create a report on. If it's data that I want to update, I create a report on Salesforce, and then I can pull the data from the report. So that's very, very useful. When it's new data, obviously I have the data in a spreadsheet, and then I connect to Salesforce. There's more things that you can do: backup and storage, metadata management. I haven't used those, but anyone who is so inclined can definitely explore this. And the way that it works is you install the add-on onto Excel or Google Sheet. I am not entirely sure of the difference between Excel Connector and Excel Connector 365. You can use both, either or. I have found that in some of the work that I did, Excel Connector has different functionality to Excel Connector 365. This is sort of native to Excel. This is more web-based, but I thought at the beginning that they would have more or less the same functionality. They don't, or at the time when I explored it, they didn't. So I mostly use Excel Connector, and I can show you here briefly. I think I need to change my sharing so that I can share my Excel. There we go. Okay. So this, again, this has nothing to do with the org that I'm connecting to. This is old pieces of data, but Excel spreadsheet. What you have here is Excel connector. I already logged into the sandbox. You can see here that I'm logged into my sandbox. And then you get a ribbon and a menu with all the functions that you can use from here. So you can get data. They do something similar to Data Loader in the sense that once you have decided what data you're uploading or what data you're updating, you can create a template. Like with Data Loader, you can create your own, I forget what they're called, the file that has all the definitions of the loading. Then you can do that here and save it. So when you come back to it, you don't want to look for the fields, the right fields, and start from scratch. You can upload that template and work with that. When you have the data and you can query rows, you can run flows. These are Zapex flows. I haven't used those, but if anyone wants to have a look, of course you can do that. And then you can have here the upsert, update, insert, uploading files. I think you can do almost anything that you can think of with data. And What I like about this is that you can choose a set of records. I don't know about you guys, but when I do any data updates, I do them in small batches for my peace of mind, for not wanting to sort of do like hundreds or thousands of rows at a time. I do them in small batches, but it makes it really easy because then I can just choose the records that I want to choose, that I want to upload or update, and you can do update selected or update all. It gives you a warning. And if you've set yourself up with the right fields, then, and you've tested it, all you have to do is press update, and it goes and updates all the data that you wanted to update. It then puts information here to says success or failure, so you know what's gone in and what hasn't, and you can fix whatever's gone wrong. I think that's it. That's all I have to say about that. Does anyone have any questions? Not all of you at the same time.
That was really good though, Nitsan. Like it's such a powerful tool.
Very.
Like I think for end particularly for end admins, I think it's a brilliant tool. I really like it. Um, yeah, anybody else, starts to play with Zapex and wants to share anything, like please do. But thank you, Nitsan. I know we were a little, Debbie and I were a little late on grabbing you into the show. So, but thank you. That was really good. I think everyone's all right. I'm hoping everyone already who already has something that they're going to do when I'm going to say go back to the office. We're already in the office. You know what I mean? Who's already got something? Like raise of hands or shows, like who's already got stuff? Okay, I'm liking this. This is an awfully good. Okay, this is great. This is great. There's all these people. Do you know something? The other thing, isn't it, Sam? Loads of people are like, I love the idea of Sapex, but I'm already installing Inspector. That's what I reckon's going on there, Nit Sam. So
Yeah.
thank you. That was helpful. So next up, we have Simon. You might remember Simon from ScreenFlow Simon, as we're going to call him. Simon's been around on all sorts recently. I think I owe him a beer because Simon he came and did screens flows. He then came to and became an Ask Me Anything panelist, and now he's here again. And I think he might talk about flow, but let's see.
How'd you guess? Yeah, it's going to be ScreenFlow again, which is unsurprising. I'm just going to do a quick screen share. There we go. So the thing I'm going to be talking about today is how you can use CSS, or how you can do styling of your screen flows. I have to say straight away, I've discovered none of this myself. This is all taken off an article on Unofficial SF. A guy called Jeff Krantz has put it together. I'll put the link in chat because it basically explains it all for you, and it's a fantastic thing to do. And what it shows you is how to do all this kind of stuff to your display text within a screen flow with ease and very quickly. So if you look at what CSS is, so CSS is basically little bits of code that tell, in this case, Salesforce, how you want to format certain things. So if I give you an example, this is a pretty standard example. You would have div class, SLDS box, then you write the stuff that you want inside the box, and then you close it off with the end of the div. So that's the kind of thing that you would normally be having. If you want to use that within a screen flow, what you do is create a text template. Make sure you view as plain text, and you can write it in there. Once it's in, you can go to your screen, go to your text box. I'm just going to get rid of that. And then I'm going to add the resource, example like that. Click done. Save. Debug. If we click run, it shows you what we've just seen. So it takes a text template and it basically reads the CSS and puts it inside a box. Now that's kind of useful, but actually it's also not particularly reusable. It's a bit annoying for people. So one of the good things that Salesforce can actually do is it knows if the end bit, the end div, is missing. So instead of me having to write all that, what I can instead do is simply write the first bit in a text template. And then when I chuck that onto the display box, it goes, oh, okay, I can see what you're doing here. Let me put the end div on it, and then we'll surround whatever you've written. So one's called This is a Box. If I go back into my screen, and we can use this one here. So again, I insert my resource. This is a box. But then what I can do is I can basically type anything. So this is the text that I want in the box. Simple as that. So it's really easy for me to do. I've just added the starter, and then I write my text. Click Save. Debug. Let's have a look. And there we go. It automatically closes it off. Whatever I've written in there, it puts in the box as we wanted. There is one more level to go, which is a bit of an Uber level. This is about having consistency across your org and the ease of having these things, so you don't have to write them in every single flow. And the way we do that is we're going to use custom labels. So if you imagine creating maybe 10, 15 custom labels that would have all the little bits of CSS we need for this thing. So this would be, for example, a red box notification error. That would be a green one. This is a normal box. You just create a few of these as custom labels. And if you do a decent naming convention, then you can grab them all from your flow. So we're going to go back into this one here. And I'm going to write congratulations. T-I-S, there we go. Right. You know what? Didn't do good at English. There we go. All right, it's going to say whatever it's going to say. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Insert Resources. I'm going to start to type label. And labels are global variables in a flow, which means you can kind of access all of them. So if I click on label, all mine are called flow styles here. So I want to have a flow style box success. That's what I'm going to go for. So I insert it, add my word, congratulations. Yeah, I can spell. Oh, I can't spell. That'll do. Click done. Click save. Debug again. And there's my box. So what we've got is lots of reusable ways of formatting our stuff where we simply just have to add the label, then we can write the stuff and it all turns up in our flow. There is a sheet which, again, I've not prepared. I've taken from Jeff, which I will show you here. And I'll make this available. These are all the different styles that you can have. So you basically either need to upload this into your org if you use something like Visual Code, or you just have to sit for half an hour and write a bunch of custom labels with this kind of stuff. But that's a name, so you've got your naming convention. This is a bit of code. Then all you need to do is grab the label, chuck it in the display box, and it does that to the text for you. And it's a really cool way of making your flows just look a little bit better, basically, a bit more professional and having consistency across lots of different flows. I think that's it.
Who thought that was awesome? Amazing. Okay. Thank you, Simon. That was really cool. When he said he was going to share something on ScreenFlow, I'm like, but what? You did a presentation on ScreenFlow, Simon. What are you going to show us? And that was really cool. Yeah, we really like that. Okay, so we do now still have just a little bit of time before our closing and duck race. So, you know, I'm not going to say we'll just sit here and, you know, chat. That'll be lovely. We'll do that on Coffee Chat tomorrow instead. But is there anything anybody else wants to share? Is there anything anybody else thinks, oh my goodness, if they just asked me, I'd have come along and talked about. Mark smiled. So I'm kind of hoping that I mean he had something to say, but maybe he doesn't. It's okay. I'm not picking on you, Mark. Promise. But no, I mean, anybody, anything else they've seen, come across, done, read about? I'm not necessarily going to make you share your screen, I promise.
I came across something a couple of days ago. There is a Salesforce Lab app that does mass deletes. You can install it. I don't know, I've never heard about it before, so that wasn't new for me yesterday. You can install it and then you can add the button to your account, contact, or any custom object screen. And then that activates the ticking, and then you can mass delete records. I didn't know that we could do that.
That's cool. I also came across that not that long ago. The only reason I paused on it was because I didn't have a huge amount of time, to be honest, but also because then I had to configure it if it was a custom object. But it didn't look too difficult to do. It was just one of them things where I like wanted to just put it in and do it as opposed to, but it doesn't look too hard.
No.
So definitely something to look at.
Yeah,
Another thing I came across, anybody who's got an Experience Cloud, is there's an app by an organization called Trig Digital. So anybody who knows Tom Bassett, who does the Be More podcast, it's actually Tom. I had no idea when I Googled it and it came up that it was going to be Tom talking to me. But it's called Map Contacts to Experience Cloud Users by Trig Digital. So what it does is with an Experience Cloud, you have your contacts, and some of those will be users. Okay. What it does is it allows you they've created this great app that you put in, dead simple, and it creates a load of fields. They load, it's about 8, 9, 10 fields. And then those fields populate with all the information of the related user. And then you can run a flow that runs like every day if you want to just make sure that they're populated. So it's a really nice way that especially if you're front end users, if they're not admins, being able to look at when did that person last log in? When did that person, it actually has like change password, or are they an active user? So yeah, so really exciting. I shared that with a couple of people who I knew it would be helpful. Well, Rosie's one of them, so she's smiling. But yeah, just really, and it was really easy to set up. So, and you can literally report on the data. So if you do have an experience and you want that level of info, that might be something that's useful. Yvonne's just thrown into the chat something about DLRS. Then I'm going to talk to Mark because he's clearly got an item. But Yvonne, do you want to say something about DLRS?
No, it's really handy. Anybody who hasn't used DLRS should probably go check it out. So it's DLRS is declarative lookup rollup summaries. And long and short of what it does is it rolls up even on objects that aren't related. So unlike where you can only roll up in a master detail relationship and things like that, so you can roll up anything pretty much onto anything as long as they're connected via an ID in some sort of description. And even then, I think you can get around it without an ID. Anyway, there's been lots of use cases where DLRS has solved lots of problems for me and many other people that I know.
I also want to add that DLRS in some spaces has a bit of a not a great reputation, but I want to just explain why. So DLRS went through a period so it's a commons solution led by the Salesforce Commons team, built by the community, but the developer building it kind of got to a point where I think they ran out of, time, speed, everything. And it kind of it became a bit old and a bit kind of janky. And at that point, so some people have been around in the space for quite a while. So if I'm going back probably about 5 years, there were some organizations who were actively uninstalling it because they were like, this is not great. Because in the background, it writes a piece of code, it writes a trigger for you, it does this, it does that. However, it's very much been turned around. So I'm just saying, if you do talk to anybody who's been around a while who goes, ooh, DLRS, ooh, just temperature check that, because that's often why. So just something I wanted to throw out there, because that was my first intro to DLRS was I don't think I think you should maybe take that out. But yeah, but the team has pivoted, they're doing a great job, and it's going strong now, so really good. Mark.
Yeah, all right. You talked me into it. It's sort of tangentially related. I'm probably preaching to the choir here anyway, but I found, am I allowed to share screen? I think I am.
Go for it.
This is Perplexity. I imagine lots of people are using Perplexity already. It's like a search engine, but AI. It seems to do better than Google for things like it's just the kind of the ultimate cheat code. So if like how to send an email via a record triggered flow in Salesforce, it will just figure it out and give you step by step guides. Like, and if you, yeah, there's something you think, oh, I sort of vaguely know that Salesforce can do that, but I can't really remember how to do it. You don't, it's just, yeah, you don't have to sort of find the trailhead or do whatever it is. You can just literally just bish bash bosh and it'll come up with the answers. So yeah, um, it makes us look good as admins because tell us what to do. That is all.
It's really cool. Thank you. That's really cool. There's gonna be more and more of these things coming around, I reckon. Um, Thank you. Couple of comments just on DLRS. So Leanne just said, it can cause a problem potentially in bigger orgs. I think a lot of that schedule overnight, their roll-ups, as long as they're not done in real time, you shouldn't have any problems. And if you do, I would say post it in the DLRS Trailblazer group because the main developers are in there and actively answer questions. You know those emails you get of like what's going on in the Trailblazer groups, like every week or whatever. You can get their weekly like roundup. DLRS's is always the fattest with the most responses. And like, yeah, some really good stuff in there. And I like Paul said they used to have an app exchange product that when they started using DLRS, it send them warnings. I like that. That's so funny. Yeah, I can imagine. Simon just called out custom report types in setup in the next Salesforce release are different and much, much better. I'm going to ask Yvonne actually can you post Jen Lee's admin blog? That's something else we should probably just mention. So Jen Lee historically didn't work for Salesforce. She wrote a really cool automation blog and it's still around. It's dating because as Flow is continuing, it's older, but Jen now works for Salesforce and Jen writes a really, really great blog. Every release, there is an admin blog and kind of goes through all the things that are coming out. So much so that Yvonne's actually started putting it on her calendar when it's coming and then invites me. So I get excited that it's coming. So yeah, really, but it's really good. And it's the sort of blog article they have sometimes done a split. I don't think they've done it this time, but sometimes they'll actually do a split that's like, here's the admin blog, here's the user blog. And actually, that's really cool because I know of people who've sent that literally to their users and just sense checked it for anything and then gone, actually, my users are good reading all of that. Boom. So yeah, really nice. Jen does these really nice. I think they're like a GIF, but they show like it moving and things. Oh, it's really clever. So yeah, please read that.
Can I just say, when I did my release one at one of these meetings, I nicked her stuff for that because it was brilliant. Yeah.
And I think I've actually done a release thing at this meeting where I literally shared my screen and shared Jen's blog. And basically we went through it because I realized that to build a demo, I was literally going to just build what Jen had already done. I was like, there's no point. So yeah, that good. Martin, this is really cool. Please just speak on this for a minute, what you've just put in chat. Some people have read it, but like, please give that a quick talk through because I like that.
So you might have an issue where you put up a form and you get loads of spam coming through. So a lot of these is like an automated thing. And what they will do is just fill in every single field that's on your form. So and that's probably because sometimes you have fields that if it's required, then it won't let them post it. So what you can do is you can hide that, just hide one field that's got nothing in it. And then when the bot comes in and fills everything up, then you can search for that field. And if there's something in it, then you know it's spam and you can just ignore it.
That's really cool. It's really cool and so simple, right?
Yep.
So love that. Absolutely love that. It's brilliant. It's great.
Okay. Emma,
Is that time for a quick question?
Go for it.
I've just started looking at GridMate. I think it's called GridMate. I'm just going to quickly search that up. Yeah, I just wanted to know if anyone's using it. I might have, yeah, GridMate. No? I've
Oh,
literally
it
just started looking at it.
changes the UI, UX of Salesforce, so it looks different.
Yeah, and also sort of brings in some Excel functionality. So you can actually do imports. It's basically like list views on steroids, kind of. That's the kind of feel that I got. It seems pretty impressive, but I'm still looking into it. But yeah, okay.
Interesting.
I thought I was sort of late to the party, but that it's got lots of good reviews. I thought it was quite a popular app, but
I feel like it might
okay.
be one of those that's a bit more not. I think I've heard of it, I would say,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I think somebody's maybe mentioned it to me before, but looking at their pricing, interestingly, they do 5 free non-profit
Yes.
licenses and 10 free licenses to consulting partners, which is interesting.
Yep.
Do you know how they handle anything over the 5 free? Like, is that 5 free users using it, or is that, so if you've got 10 licenses, because non-profits would have, do they count all of them, or is it just those who are actually going to be users of GridMate?
I think it's just users of GridMate, but I've literally
Okay,
just started the conversation. But yeah, I can feedback once I
that'd be
know a bit
great.
more.
Be fantastic. Yeah, that'd be cool. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Well, unfortunately, you're going to have to talk between yourselves just for a minute because we have a slight problem, everybody. I haven't settled the duck race because there was just so much like going on that I just didn't do it. Is the honest answer. I'm not gonna lie. It'll only take me a minute to put everybody's names in. I have messaged people asking if they're based in the UK. I didn't want to scare anybody. I'm so sorry. I know I scared a couple of people who I asked, and they were like, "Am I not meant to be here?" And I was like, "No, no, no, no. You are meant to be here. Like genuinely, you are meant to be here. I just need to know, sadly, because of postage. So I'm just gonna literally type as fast as I can everybody's names in here. So um, please talk amongst yourselves.
Do you want me to just do a couple of other things? I don't know if
Go for it, Debbie. Go for it.
there's two little things that I always do when I first do an org. If you're using people who've got date of birth, is to add that calculated field of for doing age. So I don't know if lots of people use that or would find that useful, but having a formula field rather that will do age, and also that will look at the date of death to calculate their age if they passed away. And the other one I have a flow that will update the last name of somebody if they're marked as deceased, so that it puts in big letters afterwards, deceased, so that like my users, particularly like my finance users, if they've got multiple people with the same name, but they've got something in memoriam, it helps them to find their records a bit quicker. So that's just a couple of little bits of usability, really, ideas. If anybody needs more info, let me know. Otherwise, I'm sure we can work those out. Hopefully, they're pretty simple. Except the age thing, because you do need to think about leap years. So that might also be helpful.
Okay, I think I'm done. Now going to stop the recording.